Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshak, and I'll be covering what I think are going to be the nerfs and or changes to some of these cards that are ruling the meta right now. I actually think we are pretty close to a balanced meta. There's just a few outliers that are just skewing the numbers heavily in the Paladin and Mage direction right now. First card we're going to be taking a look at is going to be that Sword of the Fallen. This has like a 70+% drawn win rate in hand when played on turn 2. 2 mana for basically 3 damage and 3 free secrets from the deck. That early in the game is just insane value. It has insane tempo. The Paladin secrets right now are very, very strong, looking at like Noble Sack, Avenge, and things of that nature. If we're looking at sheer win rate, this Paladin deck actually just has a higher win rate than the Mage deck, which we'll be covering shortly after this. And just to kind of show you how powerful the Secret Paladin is, look at this. Secret Paladin is tier 1 running the meta at a 60% win rate, followed by Libram Paladin, followed by Broom Paladin. So yeah, as we can see, Paladin is a very strong class right now, and then to knock it down a notch wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, especially due to the complexity of the class. It's one of the more smooth brain classes right now. You play the green cards in hand and kind of just win, which I don't think is that great. Sword of the Fallen, I think, is the core reason the early game of Paladin is just over the edge. They already have a very, very solid early game with stuff like the 0 mana First Day that gives you 2 1-drops. They have the new Righteous Protector that's back in the rotation. So how would we change this card? You could do one of two things. You could either make it 3 mana, so it's a 3 mana 1/3, or I think you can probably just take off a durability, and I think that would be better. So it's a 2 mana 1/2. Still does exactly the same thing. It just doesn't persist as long. You don't get that extra damage. You don't get that extra secret. The card would still obviously be filling the slot that it needs to fill in the early game. It's still pulling the secrets from the deck. It just doesn't have that amount of power for just 2 mana. I mean, basically drawing 3 secrets, putting them into play, and dealing 3 damage for 2 mana is a bit much. Rotating into the other super popular class right now, we have the Mage. But more specifically, the deck of Lunacy Mage. So this is the second most popular class on ladder right now. This card wasn't a problem until this most recent expansion. It got a lot of support cards with like Refreshing Spring Water, also with a lot of the bad cards rotating out of the pool, and now we have a more concise, whatever this is going to transform a spell into 3 or more. You can kind of target the spells you want at a certain mana bracket. So like, for example, the Grand Slam being a really good 10 mana card, or Survival of the Fittest. Those are the only 2 that you're going to get, and both of them are really, really good, while before you could have picked up something a lot less powerful. The general consensus about this card is it's really unfun to play against. So the proposed changes to this card is this card should be a meme. This card shouldn't be a competitive card. It shouldn't make up 30, 40, sometimes higher than that percentage of the amount of players you're facing against. It needs to be a fun, just little meme card. So in order to do that, this card needs to basically cost like 4 or plus mana. I was looking at even 5 mana, just because Incanter's Flow can reduce this down. A lot of people were saying 3 mana might do. But the problem is you would just Incanter's Flow, and then it gets reduced down in the future anyway, and it's still just a cheapened mana cost, right? So if you're going to take out a card like this, you have to do it right. You got to nuke it. So as memey and as fun as this card was in the prior expansions, it was just a joke, and that's what it's supposed to be. This is not supposed to be a meta-defining card. So for a particular ability like this, we need to 4 to 5 mana for this card, I think, is its best change. Taking a look at the other Mage card that everybody's talking about that they think needs to be nerfed, and that's going to be the Refreshing Spring Water. So basically Pot of Greed. This is a 4 mana draw 2 refresh 2 mana crystals. Right now, the Mage decks are only playing spells. So it's basically you spend 4 mana, you draw 2 cards, and you get 4 mana back. I don't think that this is a problem card as of now. It feels really good right now because you just have compounding stuff like Deck of Lunacy, you have Incanter's Flow, and you now have the Refreshing Spring Water. It's all just kind of supporting each other. I would like to see the Deck of Lunacy change first, and if Mage continues to be a problem deck and it's just apparently still overpowered, we could probably hit the Spring Water, and I think the best way to hit this would be refresh 1 mana crystal for each spell drawn. So A 2-mana draw 2 is still really good, and Cantor's Flow still works with this card because if this gets reduced down to 2 or 3 mana, then you're ending up paying 0 mana to still draw 2 if you double Encanters it. If you single Encanters, you're a 1 mana draw 2. It's still competitive with Cram Studies, so there's a reason to run one or the other depending on your deck, or maybe both. But currently, there's really just absolutely no reason you wouldn't play this card in your Mage deck, and I think that's a little iffy because I don't like cards like that. I like there being a reason and the deck being, you know, synergistic together, but just having basically auto include cards into deck ruins deck building, and it just kind of like linears out the process of making what would be a Mage deck. But if you know you're just always just going to run 2 Spring Waters, that takes away a lot from deck building. Moving to the Watch Post card, we have the 2 mana 2/4 Watch Post here. I think the other Watch Post, the Crossroads, is apparently the worst one. We've played a lot of the Watch Post, and I can tell you the 4 mana one is not very good. The 3 mana one is good in some matchups, but because the meta right now is mostly Mage, mostly Paladin in both of those decks, the Mage doesn't even play any minions in the deck, so obviously summoning a 2/2 Grunt whenever a minion is played is pointless. And then the Paladin deck doesn't really give a shit what you do. It just hits you in the face and just buffs its minion through the many secrets it's going to have. That doesn't really matter. But this one, this is a lot of health. So a 2 mana 2/4 that's basically being played in every single deck. I've seen this played in aggro deck. I've seen this played in mid-range decks. I've seen this now played in control decks. It's one of those cards for 2 mana. I think it has a little bit too much health for its mana cost and what it does. The fact that it's starting to see play in just about every deck, even when aggro and control decks are playing the exact same card, just because coining this out on turn 1 or playing it on turn 2 is so powerful, because there's not a lot of ways to get rid of it, I think is a clear sign that we could have potential issues down the road. I think its health is the major issue. It could be a 2 mana 2/3, and I think that would solve a lot of the problems. If you do that, they might end up nerfing all of the other watchtowers as well, just to keep it consistent. But this is by far, in my opinion, the best watch post, and that's why we're seeing it in so many different decks. And I think the 4 health for 2 mana for that particular ability is kind of insane. So if we do see a change to this, 3 health is definitely probably in our future. All right, so moving to my most hated, absolutely despised card right now, and that's going to be Penflinger. The animation is slow, it's super obnoxious, its voice line is obnoxious, it doesn't want, when you get Penflingered for like 15 minutes straight, it does not warrant, wow, I want to play more Hearthstone after that game. So, Penflinger, all of you smooth brains playing your Libram Penflinger Paladins, you couldn't even make it a single day without playing any of the new decks. This card right now can hit minions or it can hit face. Proposed change, Battle Cry, deal 1 damage to minions. Done. It can't hit face anymore. Just, it does exactly the same thing. If you want to play this card, you get to kill minions. You don't get to hit my face anymore. This card doesn't basically just do infinite face damage with 0 mana Librams from a Paladin deck that has absolutely no reach, but you have infinite Penflinger value. No more of that. You can keep this card, just it doesn't hit face anymore. Only minions. Or the other proposed change is you make it 2 mana. If you make this card 2 mana, the card is absolutely dead. This card would, I don't think it would see any play at 2 mana. But if you keep it at 1 mana and make it only hit minions, it's going to do a great job at cleaning up the board. And then from there, you have your other minions to attack face. But yeah, you don't get Penflinger reach anymore. Let's get this guy out of here. I do not like this card very much, and the fact that it can go face is not healthy. These are my hot takes on what I think are some cards that are going to get touched and how they're going to get touched. But there is some thought about these as well. A lot of people really hate Ticketus. He's a control deck destroyer. If you're playing like a Cthulhu or a fun control warrior or a control priest or a control shaman, and you go against a Ticketus warlock, you lose. There's no way for you to counter this at all. There's no way for you to put enough damage on the board to kill the warlock. You just have to accept the fact that your deck's going to go away. I don't think that's really that fun if you're a control deck player like I am. But Ticketus is not that powerful of a card in the sense that it still loses to aggro, it still loses to mid-range. Most of the time, the games don't even get past turn 6 or 7 when you're playing against an aggro deck. The game's over before then. So, it's really just deck dependent in what classes you play, whether or not you hate Ticketus. So whether you nerf this guy to 7 mana, you keep him at 6, you only remove the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Those are all proposed changes. I really don't know what to do with him because he does serve a purpose, but is that purpose really needed? And if it is needed, is he doing it too well? And then we have cutting class. This is kind of a weird pick, but I wanted to include this because right now Rogue is a deck that just continuously draws. It doesn't matter what they have. It doesn't matter how much mana they have. It doesn't matter if they have any cards or no minions. Somehow they continuously draw. They always have a full hand and their board is somehow full. I don't know how they do it. They're like Houdinis. And I think cutting class for 0 mana, I don't like 0 mana draw 2 cards. I don't like 0 mana cards in general. So if we could just draw 2 cards and cost 1 less per attack of your weapon down to 1. I think if you want to draw 2 cards, you pay 1 mana. Cards need to cost mana. That's the point of mana. And that's the reason mana is printed on cards, is because you have to spend that mana to play the card. But when you have a bunch of shit that costs 0 mana, it just kind of, we lose sight of the great picture. And the picture is, we don't like 0 mana cards. So with that, I would love to hear your opinion on some of this stuff. I know these are some hot topics and there's a lot of controversy and discussion going on about these particular cards. And as always, I'm Robert Warshak. Thank you guys for watching. Happy whatever the hell day it is.